Women like you should be grateful to even sit here. The words hit harder than the metallic snap of scissors. A bright curl of black hair floated to the marble floor, twisting in the chandelier's light before landing between polished shoes and silent disbelief. The manager smiled wide, his voice cutting through the laughter that followed. Just making you presentable, sweetheart. Around him, suits and ties chuckled, recording every second like it was a show. But for the woman in the pink blazer, time stopped right there between humiliation and history. Before we continue, where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. And if you believe in dignity and justice, hit like and subscribe. These stories spark change. And we're glad you're here. Now, back to Danielle Brooks. The laughter didn't fade. It fractured. Each chuckle echoed off the marble walls like shards of glass. Danielle sat still, her breath steady, eyes fixed on the man holding the scissors like a trophy. He was tall, crisp in his navy suit, the kind of man who believed he owned every room he entered. "Don't take it so serious," he said, smirking. "It's only hair." Only hair. The words burned deeper than any cut. Danielle's hand rose slowly, brushing the back of her neck where the strand had been severed. Her fingers trembled once, then stopped. She didn't cry. She didn't move. The stillness unnerved them more than anger ever could. A young hotel employee near the refreshment table whispered, "Sir, that's not okay." The manager turned sharply. "It's a joke, kid. Learn to lighten up." The group laughed again, but softer now, like they weren't sure if they still should. Danielle finally stood. Every eye followed. Her voice was low, calm, but carried like thunder rolling beneath polished ceilings. "You said women like me should be grateful?" The manager grinned, sensing his audience. "That's right. You should thank me for the makeover." She took a step closer. "No," she said. "You should thank me for what happens next." The laughter died. The scissors stopped spinning. For the first time, he noticed her composure wasn't submission, it was control. The kind that comes from power he couldn't recognize, let alone respect. Danielle's phone vibrated once in her pocket. She didn't look down. She just whispered, "Activate internal audit." Somewhere, miles away, a voice answered, "Confirmed. Protocol black. Initiated." And just like that, the temperature in the room changed. The air turned heavy. The suits shifted uneasily, as if something invisible had entered a reckoning they didn't see coming. The chandelier light dimmed on its own reflection, and for the first time, the man with the scissors realized the joke was already over. The silence that followed was thick, uneasy, almost alive. The manager's grin faltered, caught between arrogance and confusion. Danielle stood still, her hands folded in front of her like a verdict waiting to be read. Around them, the room that had been buzzing seconds ago now felt colder, heavier. Even the chandelier light seemed to dim as if ashamed of what it had witnessed. He cleared his throat, trying to reclaim his stage. "Let us not make this a scene," he said, glancing around the crowd for backup. "We were all just having fun, right?" A few forced laughs scattered, nervous and hollow. No one met his eyes. A phone lowered. Another stopped recording. Danielle's voice broke the air like a slow crack in glass. "Fun," she repeated, each word measured. "That is what you call cutting a woman's hair without her consent?" The manager shifted. "You are overreacting," he said. "You people always make everything about race or power." The phrase hit the crowd like thunder. Someone gasped. The young employee near the refreshment table whispered, "He did not just say that, but he had." And he stood by it, defiant in the blindness of his own privilege. Danielle took a single step forward. "Say it again," she said. Her tone was not angry, not raised. It was calm, that kind of calm that makes everyone else nervous. "Say it again, and this time look me in the eye when you do." The manager looked away. "Ma'am, I think you need to calm down," he muttered. She smiled faintly, a smile that did not reach her eyes. "I am calm. That is what should worry you." Someone from the back, an older woman in pearls, spoke up softly. "That was not a joke," she said. "That was assault." The room turned toward her, startled. For the first time, voices began to murmur, hesitant but real. "She is right," another said. That was not funny. The crowd's tone was changing. The laughter had turned into discomfort. Danielle turned toward the young employee. "What is your name?" she asked. "Luis," he answered quietly. "Luis," she said. "Thank you for speaking up." Her gaze returned to the manager. You see, it only takes one person with conscience to make the rest of you realize what you have become. The manager's jaw tightened. Do you know who I am? He asked. Danielle's reply was soft but cutting. Not yet, but you are about to know who I am. Her phone buzzed again. This time, she pulled it out, placed it on the marble table beside her, and let the speaker carry a voice that filled the silence. Miss Brooks, the voice said. Internal audit confirmed. The incident is logged. Do you want to proceed to phase 2? Every eye in the room turned to her. The manager's mouth opened slightly. Phase 2? He repeated. Danielle met his stare. Yes, she said. Accountability. The word hung in the air, accountability, sharp, heavy, final. The manager laughed, but it sounded forced now, thinner than before. You are being dramatic, he said, glancing around the room for agreement that never came. This is a luxury hotel, not some courtroom. Danielle stepped closer, her heels echoing on the marble floor like a clock counting down. Then why does it already feel like a trial? She asked. The question landed quietly, but the silence after it said everything. From the far side of the room, Luis swallowed hard. The tray in his hand rattled slightly as he whispered to the guest beside him. She is not afraid of him. The guest nodded, eyes wide, filming again this time, not out of curiosity but respect. The manager straightened his tie, forcing a smirk. You can leave now, he said. I will handle the report later. No harm done. Danielle tilted her head. No harm? Her tone was light, but every syllable carried weight. You cut a woman's hair. You mocked her in public. You used her body for your entertainment. And you call that no harm? A few people gasped. One man near the bar whispered, She is right. The old woman with pearls spoke again. It was humiliation, she said, trembling. We all saw it. The manager turned red. Enough, he barked. Everyone calm down before this goes too far. It already has, Danielle replied. She picked up her phone. Maya, confirm visual link. A calm voice answered from the speaker. Confirmed, Miss Brooks. The live feed has been connected to the corporate ethics board. All attendees are visible and audio is being recorded. The crowd stiffened. Someone whispered, Corporate board? The manager's smirk vanished. You are bluffing, he said. Danielle walked to the center of the room. You thought cutting my hair would make me small, she said quietly. But you only exposed how small this place has become. Oh. Her words carried the weight of someone who had seen this before decades of quiet prejudice dressed up as humor. Memories flickered in her eyes. A hotel lobby when she was 16. A security guard asking if she was lost. The sting of that same smile. She refocused, steady as glass. I built this chain to be a place of dignity, she said, not a stage for arrogance. The manager tried to interrupt, but Danielle raised a hand. Do not speak. You have said enough. The phone on the table chimed. Protocol Black, Phase 2, confirmed, Maya's voice said through the speaker. Mr. Tom Jacobs, manager of the Royal Continental, your employee account has been flagged for misconduct. Corporate security has been notified. Tom Jacobs blinked, his face draining of color. Wait, what did you say? Danielle met his eyes. You wanted to make a scene, now the world gets to see it. He stumbled a step backward, the scissors still clutched in his trembling hand. The laughter that had once filled the room was gone, replaced by the cold hum of realization. Guests looked away, embarrassed. Some whispered apologies under their breath. Danielle looked around the room, her voice low but firm. This is not about me, she said. It is about every woman who was told to be grateful while being disrespected. That ends today. The chandelier flickered above her as if bowing to the weight of her words. No one moved. The sound of the scissors hitting the marble floor was the only response. The metallic clang of the scissors echoed through the marble hall like a final note at the end of a symphony. For a long second, no one breathed. Then a single voice cut through the stillness. She was serious, someone whispered near the bar. The murmur spread quickly, quiet but unstoppable, like a wave of recognition. Tom Jacobs, the manager, stepped back, sweat glistening along his hairline. This is absurd, he said, forcing a laugh that betrayed his panic. You cannot just walk in here and threaten people. Who do you even think you are? Danielle's gaze did not waver. You already asked the wrong question, she replied. The right one is, who do you think you just humiliated? Luis, the young employee, took a hesitant step forward. Sir, maybe we should apologize, he said softly. Tom snapped, his voice cracking. "Stay out of this, Luis. You are lucky to even be working here." Danielle turned toward the boy. "Do not apologize for decency," she said gently. "That is how people like him keep their power." Luis looked down, his jaw tightening. "Yes, ma'am," he murmured. Across the room, a woman in a tailored gray dress spoke up. "I saw everything," she said, holding her phone high. "You cut her hair. You laughed. You said she should be grateful. That is not leadership. That is cruelty." Tom's eyes widened as more phones lifted. Every direction he turned, a lens stared back at him. "You cannot record this," he shouted, his voice rising. "This is private property." Danielle's tone stayed even. "Then it is fitting," she said, "because this property is mine." The words hit like thunder. Gasps rippled through the hall. A glass slipped from someone's hand and shattered. Tom froze. What did you just say?" "I said this hotel belongs to my company," Danielle answered. "You have spent the past 20 minutes humiliating the woman who signs your paycheck." He shook his head, denial colliding with disbelief. "You are lying. This is some kind of stunt." The voice from her phone returned, calm, unshaken. "Verification confirmed," Maya said. "Ownership records list Danielle Brooks as founder and majority shareholder of Horizon Hospitality Group." The silence that followed was total. Even the air seemed to hold still. Tom's mouth opened, but no words came out. He looked around for help, but every face in the room had turned against him. The same people who laughed with him now avoided his eyes. The same crowd that found it funny now found it sickening. Danielle stepped forward again, her voice low, controlled. "You wanted to make me small," she said. "But all you did was reveal how small you are." Her phone chimed once more. "Miss Brooks, do you want to initiate Phase 3? Maya asked. Danielle nodded. "Proceed." "Confirmed. Local corporate liaison and human resources representatives are en route. Estimated arrival 7 minutes." Tom stumbled backward. "No, you cannot do this. Please, it was a mistake. It was supposed to be harmless." "Harmless," Danielle repeated softly, walking past him. "You used that word to excuse cruelty. Now you can use it to explain your unemployment." She stopped at the center of the hall, turning toward the guests. "If you ever wondered what accountability looks like," she said, "you are standing in it." No one spoke. The sound of the hotel's grand clock struck once one clear, resonant note that marked the exact moment the laughter finally died. The ticking of the grand clock lingered in the air, each second stretching longer than the one before it. Tom Jacobs stood frozen near the front desk, color draining from his face, as if the marble beneath him were pulling the blood from his veins. Danielle Brooks did not look at him. She was studying the room instead, every corner, every witness, every reflection of the chandelier that had watched it all unfold. Her voice broke the silence. "Does anyone here still find this funny?" she asked. Not a single person moved. Even the air seemed afraid to answer. The guests who had once laughed now lowered their phones, their guilt reflected in the soft glow of their screens. Danielle's gaze moved to Luis, who still stood by the bar, trembling but present. "Luis," she said, her tone steady, almost maternal. "How long have you worked here?" 3 months, he said quietly. 3 months, she repeated. "And you were the only one brave enough to speak up. Remember that." Luis swallowed hard. "Yes, ma'am." Tom tried to recover his authority. "This is getting out of hand," he said, stepping forward. "You cannot just come in here and humiliate me in front of my staff." Danielle turned toward him slowly, her expression unreadable. "You think this is humiliation?" she asked. "Humiliation is what you did when you cut a woman's hair in front of a crowd and called it a joke." The words hit him like a blow. He flinched. "I was just—" "No," she interrupted. "You were just confirming what too many people still believe. That respect is optional when the person in front of you looks like me." The tension in the room thickened again. Someone near the elevator whispered, "She is right." Another voice answered, "It is about time someone said it." Danielle's phone buzzed once more. She placed it on the desk, speaker on. Maya's voice came through, clear and professional. "Phase 3 confirmed. Corporate security team is now entering the building. Live feed is transmitting to the Horizon board." Gasps rippled across the room. Tom looked toward the glass doors, where 2 uniformed officers in dark gray suits stepped inside, their badges glinting under the chandelier. They moved with quiet precision, not aggression, just purpose. "Mr. Jacobs," one of them said, "please step aside." Tom's voice cracked. "This is a misunderstanding. I did not mean— The officer raised a hand. Sir, this incident is recorded and verified. You will have a chance to explain yourself to the board, not here. And Tom looked at Danielle, his arrogance finally breaking into fear. Please, he whispered. I have a family. It was a stupid mistake. Danielle's eyes softened, but her voice did not. So did every person you made small under your roof. They had families too. You did not care then. He looked away, shoulders shaking, the weight of his choices collapsing on him. Danielle turned to the guests, her posture tall, centered. Let this be a lesson, she said. Silence is not neutral. When you laugh with cruelty, you stand with it. The officers led Tom toward the exit. His footsteps echoed down the marble corridor, a slow retreat from the power he once abused. Danielle looked at the floor where the curl of her hair still lay, glinting faintly in the light. She whispered, almost to herself, every strand grows back. Dignity does too when you fight for it. The chandelier shimmered again, softer now, as if the building itself exhaled relief. And for the first time that day, the room felt clean. The glass doors closed behind Tom Jacobs with a muted thud that seemed to seal the past out of the building. The sound hung in the air like an echo of judgment. For a moment, no one dared to move. Then Danielle Brooks turned toward the gathered employees and guests, her presence commanding without effort. The marble floor reflected her stance like a mirror, steady and unbroken. This, she said, her voice low and deliberate, is how systems change. Not through shouting, not through revenge, but through truth spoken clearly, seen publicly. Her words filled the space like music that no one wanted to interrupt. Several employees looked down at their uniforms as if seeing them for the first time. The young bellhop near the entrance whispered to another, She is the owner. I cannot believe it. The other nodded slowly, eyes wide. Danielle moved closer to the front desk, where the faint curl of her hair still rested on the marble. She picked it up carefully, holding it between her fingers for a long second before setting it on the counter. This, she said softly, is not what defines me, but it will remind you who I am. Luis took a hesitant step forward. Ma'am, he said, his voice trembling. Thank you for not yelling. I would have. Danielle gave a faint smile. Anger burns fast. Dignity lasts longer. Across the lobby, the older woman in pearls began to clap. The sound was small at first, uncertain, but it grew as others joined. Within seconds, the applause spread through the hall, rising like a storm breaking open the silence. Guests, employees, even the concierge behind the counter began to clap, some through tears. Danielle did not bow. She simply nodded once, accepting the gesture with grace but without triumph. Applause means nothing, she said quietly. Change means everything. Oh, her phone buzzed again. She answered without breaking eye contact with the room. Yes, Maya? Maya's voice was calm but bright. Corporate communications is on standby. Do you want to issue a statement? Danielle thought for a moment. No press release, she said. Not yet. Let the truth travel on its own. It always does. Maya's voice softened. Understood. Danielle hung up and faced the group once more. To every employee who stood silent, she said, I will not fire you. I will ask you to reflect. Learn why you stayed quiet. Because silence does not protect you, it only delays your courage. Luis looked down, ashamed. Danielle stepped toward him. Do not let guilt turn into fear, she said. Let it turn into strength. He nodded. I will, ma'am. Danielle turned toward the concierge desk. Reopen this lobby, she ordered calmly. Make sure every guest who walked in today leaves knowing this place stands for something again. Yes, Miss Brooks, the concierge replied immediately. Danielle glanced once more at the doorway where Tom Jacobs had been led out. For years, she said, people like him believed ownership looked one way, white, male, untouchable. Today, that illusion broke. She began walking toward the elevator, her heels steady against the marble. The applause followed her up the steps, growing softer but never fading. By the time the elevator doors closed, the sound had transformed not into celebration, but into awakening. And as the numbers on the elevator panel glowed higher, one truth lingered behind her. Respect cannot be borrowed, bought, or begged for. It must be earned. And she had just reminded everyone in that building exactly how. The elevator doors slid open to the top floor, revealing a wide glass corridor washed in afternoon light. From up there, the city stretched endlessly steel, motion, and stories stacked on top of one another. Danielle Brooks stepped out, calm but deliberate, every movement a statement of control. Her phone was already vibrating in her hand. "Maya," she said, answering. "Yes, Miss Brooks," came the voice through the speaker. "Has the board seen the footage?" Danielle asked. "They have," Maya replied. "It is already circulating internally. They requested your authorization to proceed with executive removal of all staff directly under Tom Jacobs' supervision." "Approved," Danielle said. "Make sure the report emphasizes one thing, that this was not a single act of ignorance. It was a culture tolerated by silence." "Understood, Ms. Brooks." Danielle ended the call and paused by the window. Below her, the hotel lobby looked like a miniature world, people moving in slow patterns, unaware of the storm that had passed through. She remembered when she had first acquired the building 3 years earlier. Everyone had congratulated her, but someone had whispered behind her back, "She only got it because of diversity optics." Those words had stayed in her bones. Today, they finally cracked and fell away. A knock echoed at the glass door. It was Luis, nervous but determined. "Miss Brooks," he said, "I did not mean to intrude. Security let me up. I just needed to say something." She gestured for him to enter. "Go ahead." "Ho." Luis took a breath. "I am sorry for not doing more down there." I froze. "I wanted to say something earlier, but I was afraid." Danielle nodded slowly. "Fear is what they count on, Luis. It is the quiet currency of power. You broke it when you spoke." He hesitated. "Thank you, ma'am. I want to be part of the team that fixes this place." "You already are," she said. "Report to Human Resources tomorrow morning. You will be promoted to Assistant Front Office Manager. We need people who know what right looks like." Luis's eyes widened. "Thank you," he said again, his voice breaking. Danielle smiled faintly. "Earn it every day." He left, shoulders straighter than when he had entered. Danielle turned back to the cityscape. Her reflection met her eyes in the glass, strong, composed, unapologetically black. She reached into her pocket and pulled out the small curl of hair she had kept since the incident. It shimmered faintly in the light. "This is not loss," she whispered. "This is proof." Her phone buzzed again, another call from Maya. "Miss Brooks," Maya said, "the video from the lobby has reached social media. It is spreading fast. Thousands of comments in minutes." "Good," Danielle said. "Let people see what dignity looks like when it stands its ground." "Do you want me to issue a response?" "No," she said firmly. "Silence will speak louder. Let the images do the talking." Hoer. From far below, the sound of applause drifted faintly through the open vent, a remnant of the crowd that had stayed behind, still clapping long after she left. Danielle exhaled, her voice soft but certain. "Let them clap," she said. "Justice does not need a microphone. It only needs a moment." And as the sun settled against the skyline, its reflection caught the curl of hair in her hand one last time, turning it to gold. By the time the sun dipped below the city skyline, the video had already reached millions of screens. Clips from the lobby appeared on every major social feed. The scissors, the laughter, the silence, and finally Danielle's calm voice saying, "You just assaulted the owner of this hotel." It spread without her permission, yet carried her message perfectly. Dignity does not whisper. It echoes. In the boardroom on the 32nd floor, a dozen executives sat waiting. The room was lined with glass and quiet tension. Danielle entered without ceremony, her stride measured, her face unreadable. The same people who had once doubted her leadership now rose to their feet instinctively. "Sit," she said. Her tone was not sharp, just final. They obeyed. The chairman, an older man with silver hair, cleared his throat. "Miss Brooks," he began carefully, "the footage is powerful. It has positioned the company as a moral voice, but it also raises concerns about reputation management. Would you like to approve a public statement?" Danielle folded her hands on the table. "No press spin," she said. "No prepared apology from a committee. Let the truth stand by itself." Another executive shifted uncomfortably. "The shareholders are calling," he said. "They want reassurance that you have the situation under control." Danielle's gaze was steady. "Control," she repeated. "That is what Tom Jacobs thought he had. Control without accountability is just privilege, and privilege, unchecked, is rot." The words landed heavily. A young woman at the end of the table, new to the board, black like Danielle, sat taller, pride flickering in her eyes. Danielle continued. "Every company has a mirror moment," she said. "This is ours. We can look away, Or we can see who we truly are. I choose to see. Maya entered quietly with a folder. Miss Brooks, the internal review team finished the audit. It confirms multiple reports of discriminatory behavior under Jacob's management. Danielle nodded once. Forward it to legal. Compensation packages for affected employees are to be processed immediately. I want letters of acknowledgement, not apologies. Acknowledgements on my desk by tomorrow morning. Yes, Miss Brooks. The room stayed silent, the weight of her authority filling every inch of air. The chairman leaned forward slowly. You understand, Danielle, that this makes you more than a CEO. It makes you a symbol. She met his gaze. Symbols fade, she said. Systems last. Fix the system. He nodded, humbled. Danielle stood, smoothing her blazer. One more thing, she said. Effective immediately, we will implement mandatory training on racial dignity across all properties. Every manager will attend, every department will document compliance. This will not be optional. No one argued. She turned toward the window overlooking the glowing city. I built Horizon to be more than walls and profit, she said. It was meant to be a promise, a place where people like me could walk through the door without being measured by the color of their skin. Her reflection in the glass looked both powerful and peaceful. Behind her, the board remained silent, not out of fear, but respect. Danielle took a slow breath, eyes on the lights below. If that promise costs us comfort, she said, then comfort was never worth keeping. The room stayed still. Outside, the city pulsed with new energy, as if the world itself had paused to listen. Night settled over the city like a velvet curtain, soft but full of weight. From the glass walls of the Horizon boardroom, the skyline glittered in fractured reflections, each light a reminder that truth, once spoken, cannot be contained. Danielle Brooks remained alone after the meeting, the hum of the building blending with her thoughts. The air felt different now, lighter yet still trembling from what had happened. Her phone vibrated on the table. It was Maya. Miss Brooks, she said. The news networks are running the story. They are calling it the Scissors Incident. Public support is overwhelming. Thousands of messages of solidarity are flooding in. Danielle listened quietly. And the backlash? She asked. A few predictable voices, Maya replied. Some say you humiliated him. Others say it was staged. Danielle smiled faintly, but her eyes stayed on the window. Truth always looks like defiance to those who built comfort on silence, she said. Let them talk. Maya hesitated. Would you like to make a statement tonight? Not yet, Danielle answered. Tomorrow, after the dust settles. Tonight belongs to reflection. Yeah. When the call ended, Danielle walked to the corner of the room where the original blueprint of the Horizon Hotel hung framed on the wall. She touched the glass with her fingertips, tracing the faint lines she had once drawn herself, the dream of building a place that stood for equality, not just luxury. She remembered the early days, meetings where men twice her age called her sweetheart, investors who asked if she could handle the pressure, colleagues who suggested she hire someone more experienced to speak for her. But she had stayed the course. Every insult became a foundation stone. Every doubt became a wall she refused to let anyone knock down. Behind her, the elevator opened with a soft chime. It was Luis again, holding a folder. Miss Brooks, he said nervously. I brought the updated staff roster for review. Security asked if you wanted to confirm the terminations personally. Danielle took the folder but did not open it. No, she said. It is done. People like Tom Jacobs write their own endings. Luis nodded. The staff downstairs are still talking about you, he said. They said it felt like justice finally walked through the door. Danielle smiled gently. Justice does not walk in, she said. It rises when people stand tall enough to see it. Luis hesitated. Do you think people will change after this? She looked out over the city again, the streets glowing like a web of second chances. Some will, she said. Others will not. But the ones who saw what happened today will remember. That is how change begins quietly, with memory. Luis lowered his gaze, his voice soft. Thank you for letting me stay. You earned it, Danielle said. Now go home, rest. Tomorrow we rebuild. When he left, Danielle turned back toward the window, her reflection framed against the city lights. She whispered to herself, They cut my hair, but not my story. Outside, the wind moved against the glass, and in that faint whisper, it almost sounded like the city was agreeing. The following morning arrived, calm and pale. the kind of morning that feels like the world is catching its breath. Sunlight spilled through the floor-to-ceiling windows of Danielle Brooks's office, washing over the polished wood desk and the silent phone resting at its center. The chaos of the previous day had dissolved into something quieter but far more powerful consequence. Maya entered without knocking, holding a tablet. "Miss Brooks," she said, "the final terminations have been executed. Tom Jacobs' credentials were deactivated at dawn. His department heads were informed at 7 o'clock and escorted from the premises by 9. Danielle nodded slowly. "Good. Make sure human resources follows procedure. Dignity does not end with discipline. We treat them correctly, even if they never learn to do the same." "Yes, Miss Brooks," Maya said. "The story is still dominating every major news feed. Hashtag Black CO Justice is trending worldwide." Hell. Danielle turned her chair toward the window, watching the city pulse with morning light. "It was never about trending," she said. "It was about truth having a voice." Her desk phone rang a direct line reserved for internal use only. Danielle picked it up. "This is Brooks." A man's voice, trembling slightly, came through. "Miss Brooks, this is Andrew Peters from the New York property. We wanted to say thank you. What you did gave a lot of us courage." "Oh, courage does not need thanks," Danielle replied. "It needs action. Protect your staff. Set your standards. Make sure no one forgets why this happened." "Yes, ma'am, we will." The line clicked off. Maya hesitated. "Do you ever feel tired of being the example?" Danielle gave a faint smile. "Sometimes, but exhaustion is a privilege I cannot afford. My grandmother cleaned hotel rooms her whole life. She said, 'If they see you, make sure they really see you.' I think she would have liked today." Maya's eyes softened. "She would be proud." Danielle stood and walked to the credenza behind her desk. A small silver box sat there, the same one her grandmother used to keep her employee badges from decades of service. Danielle opened it carefully and placed the curl of hair inside. "This is not a symbol of pain anymore," she said quietly. "It is a seal of ownership." The intercom buzzed again. The security director's voice came through. "Miss Brooks, the press has gathered outside. They are asking if you will make a statement." Danielle's gaze stayed on the skyline. "Tell them I will speak at noon," she said. "Not about scandal, but about standards." "Yes, ma'am." She turned back to Maya. "Prepare the lobby for the announcement. I want every employee present. No cameras inside, only witnesses." Maya nodded and left the room. Danielle took one last look at the city below. The same marble lobby that had once echoed with laughter at her expense would now hold a different sound truth, spoken aloud. She whispered to herself, "They thought cutting my hair was power. Today they learn what power really is." The clock on the wall struck 11:30. 30 minutes until she walked back into the same room, not as a victim of prejudice, but as the living proof that dignity, once awakened, never sleeps again. The clock struck noon. The lobby that had once been a theater for humiliation was now a hall of reckoning. Employees lined the walls, guests lingered at the edges, and sunlight poured through the glass ceiling like judgment made visible. The marble floor gleamed freshly cleaned, but unable to erase the memory of what had happened there. When Danielle Brooks stepped out of the elevator, silence followed her. Not fear, reverence. The same chandelier that had once glittered above laughter now burned with quiet intensity, casting gold over her shoulders as if crowning her in light. She walked to the center of the lobby and turned to face the crowd. Her voice carried effortlessly, neither loud nor soft, but precise, each word finding its mark. "Yesterday, this place was stained by ignorance," she said. "Today, it begins to heal." A ripple moved through the crowd. Cameras were banned, but eyes were wide, phones off yet hearts recording. Danielle continued. "I was told to be grateful, to smile when insulted, to call cruelty misunderstanding, but gratitude without respect is submission, and I will never bow to that." Her words hit like steady waves measured, rhythmic, undeniable. She pointed to the marble near the reception desk, where the faintest scuff still remained. "That is where it happened," she said. "The joke, the scissors, the silence. Every person who stood here witnessed how easily dignity can be tested and how quickly truth can rise to meet it." Luis stood near the back, his uniform crisp, his chin lifted. Danielle caught his gaze and nodded slightly. "Some of you spoke up," she said. "Others stayed quiet. But what matters now is what you do next. This company will not be built on fear. It will be built on conscience." A low murmur of agreement moved through the room. Danielle's tone softened, but her authority did not fade. Let this lobby remind you that respect is not decor, it is policy, and it applies to everyone who walks through these doors. Maya stood by the elevator, her eyes bright. Danielle looked to her and then to the employees. From this moment forward, she said, training on racial dignity, empathy, and inclusion will not be optional. It will be required. Because professionalism without humanity is nothing but polished cruelty. Applause rose not explosive, but steady, sincere. Some clapped with tears in their eyes, others simply stood taller. Danielle waited until the sound settled into a hum. Then she said the final words that would define not just that day, but the legacy of the Horizon brand. I did not need to film what happened, she said, because I am the result of every story that was filmed before me. Justice does not always come with noise. Sometimes it comes with silence and the power to stand in it. She looked around the room once more, her gaze calm and unwavering. I do not need to raise my voice, she said. I am the voice. And as the chandelier light spread across the marble, the applause began again, this time not as celebration, but as acknowledgement. The lobby that had once echoed with laughter now carried something far louder. Respect reborn, and justice finally standing tall.